The Valorian Dominion had ruled the stars for 300 years. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were black and cold like the space between stars. They had conquered 17 star systems and destroyed anyone who stood in their way. To them, war was simple. It was just numbers. If you had more ships, you won. If you had bigger guns, you won. There was no mystery to it. No confusion. War was math, and the Valorians were very good at math.high. Warlord Dexal stood on the bridge of his command ship, the Eternal Conquest. He was the greatest military mind his species had ever produced. He had won 47 battles without a single defeat. His name was spoken with fear across a dozen worlds. When he looked at the stars, he saw only targets. Only things to be taken and controlled. Today, his fleet of 200 warships hung in orbit around a small blue planet called Kepler 442b. The humans who lived there called it New Providence. It was a young colony, only 40 years old. Just over 1 million people lived on its surface. They had farms and small cities and children who played in parks. They had no idea that death was waiting for them in the sky above. Dexal studied the planet on his viewing screen. His second-in-command, War Master Vexnal, stood beside him. The War Master was younger and eager to prove himself. He looked at the human colony with hungry eyes. "The scans are complete, High Warlord," Vexnal said. "The humans have only 12 defense platforms in orbit. Their weapons are primitive. Energy output is barely worth measuring. They have no fleet, no warships, nothing that could threaten even our smallest vessel." Dexal made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was hard to tell with Valorians. As expected, these humans are children playing in the dark. They reached for the stars without understanding what waits among them. He had read the intelligence reports on humanity. They were a young species from a world called Earth. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 80 years ago. They have spread to a handful of colonies, but had no unified military. No empire. They were scattered and weak. They were perfect victims. "Send the standard message," Dexal ordered. "Give them 6 hours to surrender. Tell them that any resistance will result in complete destruction." Vexnal bowed his head and turned to carry out the order. Within minutes, every communication device on New Providence received the same transmission. A Valorian face appeared on screens in homes, schools, and government buildings. The message was simple and cruel. "People of this world, you are now property of the Valorian Dominion. You will surrender all weapons and all ships. Your leaders will present themselves for processing. Any attempt to fight will be met with death. You have 6 hours. This is your only warning." Down on the planet's surface, people watched the message with fear in their hearts. Mothers held their children close. Fathers looked at their families and wondered if they would live to see tomorrow. The colonial governor, a woman named Patricia Mills, stood in her office and felt the weight of impossible choices pressing down on her. She was 52 years old. She had come to New Providence as a young woman with dreams of building something new. Now, she might have to watch it all burn. She looked out her window at the city she had helped create. The streets were filled with people running, crying, trying to understand what was happening. Her assistant rushed into the room. He was a young man named Kevin, and his face was pale with fear. "Governor, what do we do? We can't fight them. We have nothing. Our defense platforms might hold them off for an hour, maybe 2. But after that..." Patricia closed her eyes. She thought about surrendering. She thought about saving lives by giving up. The Valorians would take everything, but maybe they would let her people live. Maybe slavery was better than death. But then she thought about something else. She thought about Earth. She thought about the message she had sent 3 days ago, when the first Valorian scout ships appeared in their system. She had sent a distress call across the stars, begging for help. "We wait," she said quietly. "We hold on as long as we can, and we wait." Kevin stared at her. "Wait for what?" "No one is coming, Governor. Earth is too far away. Even if they wanted to help, they could never reach us in time." Patricia looked at him with something strange in her eyes. It might have been hope. It might have been faith. "You don't know Earth like I do, Kevin. You were born out here. You've never seen what humans can do when they're angry. You've never read the history books. What do you mean?" She turned back to the window. In the sky above, she could see the lights of Valorian ships like evil stars. "I mean that humanity spent 10,000 years learning how to kill each other. We invented war. We perfected it. We burned our own world almost to ashes before we finally found peace. Those aliens up there think they understand violence. They think they know what war means." She smiled, and there was something fierce in that smile. Something old and dangerous. They have no idea. Far away, across the black ocean of space, the distress signal from New Providence reached Earth. It arrived at a military station in orbit around the moon. A young communications officer named Amy Chun was the first to hear it. She listened to Governor Mill's desperate words, and then she listened to the Valorian ultimatum that followed. Her hands were shaking as she forwarded the message to her superiors. Within minutes, it had reached the highest levels of Earth's government. Within an hour, it had reached the desk of Admiral Catherine Sullivan. The Admiral was 63 years old. Her hair was gray, and her face was lined with years of hard service. She had fought in 3 wars and buried too many friends. She had hoped to never see another battle in her lifetime. But as she read the Valorian demands, as she heard the threat against innocent human colonists, she felt something wake up inside her. It was old. It was dark. It was the thing that lived in the heart of every human being. The thing that their ancestors had used to survive ice ages, predators, and each other. The thing that made humanity the most dangerous species their world had ever produced. Catherine Sullivan looked at the Valorian ultimatum, and she smiled. Then she picked up her communicator and began making calls. The machines of war were about to wake up, and the galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about the people of Earth. Admiral Catherine Sullivan walked into the meeting room with fire in her eyes. The United Earth Defense Council was already assembled around the long table. There were generals and admirals, politicians and scientists. They all looked tired and worried. They had all seen the message from New Providence. Catherine took her seat at the head of the table. She did not waste time with greetings or small talk. "You have all seen the Valorian ultimatum. 1,200,000 human beings will die or become slaves in less than 6 hours unless we act. I am here to tell you that we will act." A politician named Director Howard Blake raised his hand. He was a thin man with nervous eyes who always worried about budgets and public opinion. "Admiral, with respect, New Providence is 17 light years away. Even with our fastest ships, we cannot possibly reach them in time. The math simply does not work." Catherine stared at him with cold eyes. "Director Blake, I did not ask for your opinion on what is possible. I am telling you what is going to happen. We have one ship capable of reaching New Providence in time. The USS Defiance. It will leave within the hour." Silence fell over the room. Everyone knew about the Defiance. It was the first of the Titan-class battleships, a vessel so large and powerful that many had called it a waste of money. It had been built in secret over 15 years. It carried weapons that had never been tested in real combat. And it had an experimental full drive that could bend space itself. General Margaret Foster leaned forward. She was an old soldier with scars on her hands and steel in her voice. "Catherine, the full drive has only been tested twice. Both times were short jumps. You're talking about sending that ship 17 light years in one jump. If something goes wrong, we lose our most advanced vessel and everyone on board. Catherine nodded slowly. I know the risks, Margaret. I also know what happens if we do nothing. We show the galaxy that humanity abandons its own. We show every alien empire out there that we are weak, that we can be attacked without consequence. If we let New Providence fall, more attacks will follow. Today, it is one colony. Tomorrow it will be 10. Next year it will be Earth itself. She stood up and looked around the room. I am not asking for permission. I am informing you of my decision. The Defiance will launch. Captain Marcus Webb will command. And those Valorians will learn what happens when you threaten human lives. No one argued with her. There was something in her voice that made argument impossible. One by one, the council members nodded their agreement. The decision was made. 2 hours later, Catherine stood in the massive hangar bay of the Luna Military Station. Before her, the USS Defiance waited like a sleeping giant. It was 3 kilometers long and half a kilometer wide. Its hull was made of black metal that seemed to eat the light. Weapons covered every surface. Railguns, missile tubes, energy cannons, point defense systems. It was not a ship designed for exploration or diplomacy. It was a ship designed for one purpose only. War. Captain Marcus Webb stood at the base of the boarding ramp. He was 45 years old with short brown hair and calm gray eyes. He had served in the Navy for 23 years. He had never lost a ship or abandoned a crew member. When Catherine approached him, he saluted with perfect form. Admiral, the Defiance is ready. All systems are green. The crew is aboard and prepared for departure. Catherine returned his salute. Marcus, I am not going to give you a speech about duty or honor. You know what needs to be done. Those people on New Providence are counting on you. Do not let them down. Marcus nodded. I won't, Admiral. We'll bring them home safe. He turned and walked up the ramp into his ship. The hangar doors began to open, revealing the stars beyond. Catherine watched as the Defiance lifted off and moved toward open space. She whispered a quiet prayer, though she had not believed in any god for many years. On the bridge of the Defiance, Marcus took his seat in the captain's chair. His crew surrounded him at their stations. To his left sat Commander Lisa Morgan, his tactical officer. She was a small woman with sharp features and even sharper instincts. She could read a battlefield the way most people read books. To his right stood Lieutenant Commander Danny Cole, his chief engineer. Danny was a big man with rough hands and a gentle smile. He knew the Defiance better than anyone alive. He had helped build her from the first bolt to the last wire. At the weapons station sat Lieutenant Tyler Grant. He was young, only 28, but he was the best gunner in the fleet. His reaction time was almost inhuman. In simulations, he had never missed a target. Marcus looked at his crew and felt pride swell in his chest. These were good people, brave people. They had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might not come back. All stations report, he ordered. One by one, his officers confirmed that their systems were ready. Engines were at full power. Weapons were loaded and armed. The full drive was charged and stable. The ship was alive and eager to fight. Marcus opened a channel to the entire crew. His voice echoed through every corridor and compartment of the massive vessel. This is the captain. In a few minutes, we will make the longest fold jump in human history. We are going to a place called New Providence, where 1 million of our brothers and sisters are waiting for us. An alien fleet threatens to destroy them or take them as slaves. We are going to make sure that does not happen. He paused and took a deep breath. I will not lie to you. This will be dangerous. The enemy outnumbers us 200 to 1. They have technology we have never faced before. Some of us may not come home. But I want you to remember something. We are human. Our ancestors survived ice ages with nothing but stone tools. They crossed oceans in wooden boats. They built civilizations from dust and dreams. When the universe tried to kill us, we refused to die. His voice grew stronger. Those aliens out there think they understand war. They think it is about numbers and calculations. They are wrong. War is about will. War is about refusing to give up. War is about protecting the people you love. And no one in this galaxy does that better than us. He looked at the stars on the view screen. Somewhere out there, people were afraid and waiting for help. Navigator, engage the full drive. Take us to New Providence. The ship hummed with power. Space twisted and bent around them. The stars stretched into lines of light. And then, with a flash that lit up the darkness, the USS Defiance vanished from Earth's solar system. The hunt had begun. High Warlord Dexal was growing impatient. 4 hours had passed since he sent his ultimatum to the humans below. They had not surrendered. They had not even responded. Their pathetic defense platforms still orbited the planet, weapons powered up as if they actually believed they could fight. It was insulting. It was like watching insects try to threaten a mountain. He stood on the bridge of the Eternal Conquest and watched the planet turn slowly beneath him. His fleet surrounded it like a net of death. 200 warships, 50,000 soldiers. Enough firepower to glass the entire surface in less than an hour. War Master Vexnal approached him with a data tablet. "High Warlord, the deadline expires in 2 hours. Shall I prepare the ground forces for landing?" Dexal waved one of his 4 hands dismissively. "Not yet. These humans are stubborn, but they are not stupid. They will surrender. They have no choice. Their primitive weapons cannot scratch our shields. Their colony has no military worth mentioning. They are alone in the dark, and they know it." But even as he spoke, something felt wrong. A cold feeling crept up his spine. He had conquered many worlds and faced many enemies. He knew what fear looked like. He knew what despair looked like. But when he watched the transmissions from the planet below, when he saw the faces of the human colonists, he did not see either of those things. He saw defiance. He saw anger. He saw people who were scared but refused to break. It bothered him more than he wanted to admit. "High Warlord!" The shout came from the sensor officer on the far side of the bridge. The young Valorian's voice cracked with something that sounded almost like panic. "I am detecting an anomaly at the edge of the system. Space is warping. Something is coming through." Dexal turned sharply. "Show me." The main view screen flickered and changed. It showed the outer reaches of the star system, far beyond the planet and its moons. At first, there was nothing but empty space and distant stars. Then the stars began to stretch and bend. Light twisted in ways that seemed impossible. A hole opened in reality itself, and something came through. It was a ship. A human ship. Dexal felt his heart skip a beat. The vessel that emerged from the fold space was massive. It was almost as large as his own command ship, but it looked completely different. Where Valorian ships were smooth and elegant, this thing was rough and brutal. Its hull was covered with weapons. Its engines burned with fierce blue light. It moved through space like a predator entering a hunting ground. "One ship," Vexnal said. His voice was uncertain now. "They sent only one ship?" Dexal studied the readings on his screen. The human vessel was broadcasting an identification signal. "Use Defiance." He rolled the name around in his mind. Defiance. A word that meant refusal to obey. Refusal to surrender. Refusal to accept defeat. "They are either very brave or very foolish," he said slowly. "Perhaps both." What are our readings on their weapons? The sensor officer worked frantically at his console. High Warlord, I cannot identify most of their weapon systems. They are using technology we have never encountered. However, their energy output is significant, far higher than anything their species should possess. Dexal felt the cold feeling in his spine grow stronger, but he pushed it down. He was the High Warlord of the Valorian Dominion. He had never lost a battle. He would not start now. Open a channel to the human vessel. Let us see who we are dealing with. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Marcus Webb watched the Valorian fleet on his screen. 200 ships hung in space between him and the planet he had come to save. Some were small and fast. Others were large and bristling with weapons. At the center of the formation sat a massive command ship that made the others look like toys. "That's a lot of ships, Captain," Commander Lisa Morgan said from her station. Her voice was calm, but Marcus could see the tension in her shoulders. "Yes, it is," he agreed. "How are our systems?" Lieutenant Commander Danny Cole checked his console. "All green, sir." The full jump was rough on the engines, but everything is holding together. "We are ready to fight." "Weapons status?" Lieutenant Tyler Grant grinned from his station. His fingers danced over his controls like a musician preparing to play. "All batteries are charged and loaded, Captain. Railguns are primed. Missile tubes are full. Point defense is active. Just give me targets, sir. I will make them disappear." Marcus nodded. He appreciated Tyler's confidence. He would need that confidence in the minutes to come. The communications officer spoke up. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the Valorian command ship. They want to talk. Put it through." The view screen changed to show the face of a Valorian. Dexal stared at Marcus with cold black eyes. His gray skin looked like stone in the harsh light of his bridge. His forearms were folded across his chest in what Marcus assumed was a gesture of superiority. "Human commander," Dexal said. His voice was deep and filled with contempt. "I am High Warlord Dexal of the Valorian Dominion. You have entered a combat zone without authorization. Your presence here is meaningless. One ship cannot change the outcome of this day. Withdraw now, and I will allow you to leave in peace. Stay, and you will die with the rest of your kind." Marcus leaned back in his chair. He looked at the alien warlord on his screen, and he smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a wolf seeing sheep. "High Warlord, my name is Captain Marcus Webb of the United Earth Navy. I am here to deliver a message from humanity. The people on that planet below are under our protection. If you touch them, if you harm a single one of them, we will destroy your fleet. We will hunt down every ship that escapes. We will find your homeworld, and we will make you regret the day you ever heard the word human." Dexal stared at him in disbelief. Then he laughed. It was an ugly sound, like rocks grinding together. "You threaten me? With one ship? You are mad." Marcus shook his head slowly. "No, High Warlord. I am human, and you are about to find out what that means." He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. Every eye on the bridge was focused on him. Every heart was beating fast. The moment of truth had arrived. All hands to battle stations. Raise shields. Power all weapons. He looked at the 200 enemy ships waiting for him in the darkness. "Let us show them how we do things on Earth." The USS Defiance surged forward, and the battle for New Providence began. The first shot of the battle came from the USS Defiance. Tyler Grant had been waiting for this moment his entire career. His fingers moved across his console, and the great rail guns along the ship's spine roared to life. Massive tungsten slugs, each one weighing several tons, launched from the ship at incredible speed. They crossed the distance between the Defiance and the Valorian fleet in seconds. The Valorians never saw them coming. Their shields were designed to stop energy weapons. Plasma bolts, laser beams, particle cannons. These were the tools of civilized warfare in the galaxy. No one used kinetic weapons anymore. They were primitive. They were outdated. They were relics of a barbaric past. The tungsten slugs did not care about any of this. They hit the first line of Valorian cruisers with the force of small nuclear explosions. Shields flickered and died. Hulls crumpled like paper. 3 ships exploded in the first 2 seconds of combat. 4 more were crippled and spinning out of control. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, I, Warlord Dexal, watched in shock as his perfect formation fell apart. What? What happened? What kind of weapons are those? His tactical officer was screaming readings that made no sense. Kinetic projectiles. Solid metal. No energy signature to track. No way to predict their trajectory. The Valorian targeting systems were confused and useless against this ancient form of attack. Return fire, Dexal shouted. All ships, return fire. Destroy that vessel. The Valorian fleet responded. Hundreds of plasma cannons turned toward the Defiance and unleashed a storm of green fire. The space around the human ship lit up with deadly energy. Any normal vessel would have been vaporized in an instant. The Defiance was not a normal vessel. Captain. Webb watched the incoming fire on his screen. His voice was calm and steady. Danny, how are the shields holding? Chief Engineer Danny Cole checked his readings and laughed. Those plasma bolts are barely scratching us, Captain. Our armor is designed to handle way worse than this. We could sit here all day and let them shoot us. We are not going to sit here all day. Lisa, give me attack pattern Delta. Tyler, switch to missiles. Let us see how they handle a few hundred warheads in their formation. Commander Lisa Morgan worked her console with lightning speed. The Defiance changed course, diving down and to the left to avoid a concentrated barrage. At the same time, missile tubes along the ship's sides opened and released their payload. 300 missiles streaked toward the Valorian fleet, each one carrying enough explosives to crack a small moon. The Valorians tried to shoot them down. Their point defense systems filled the space with defensive fire. They managed to destroy about half of the missiles. The other half found their targets. Explosions bloomed across the enemy formation. Ships shattered and burned. Escape pods launched in all directions. The perfect mathematical formation that Dexal had been so proud of was now chaos and fire. But the Defiance did not stop there. Captain. Webb drove his ship directly into the heart of the Valorian fleet. It was insane. It was suicidal. It was exactly what the Valorians did not expect. Sir, you're taking us into their formation, Lisa said. There was no fear in her voice, only surprise. Marcus nodded. Their ships are designed for long-range combat. They want to keep us at a distance and wear us down with numbers. So we do the opposite. We get close. We get personal. We make them afraid to shoot because they might hit each other. The Defiance plunged through the enemy lines like a shark through a school of fish. Its weapons fired in all directions. Railguns tore through cruisers. Missiles smashed into destroyers. Energy cannons swept across frigates. And through it all, Tyler Grant kept firing with a wild joy on his face. This is amazing, he shouted. They can't hit us. Every time they shoot, they hit their own ships. It was true. The Valorians were panicking. Their careful tactics had fallen apart. Their commanders were screaming contradictory orders. Some ships were trying to retreat. Others were trying to surround the human vessel. Many were just trying to survive. High Warlord Dexal watched his fleet die and could not understand what he was seeing. This was not how war was supposed to work. You did not charge into enemy formations. You did not take insane risks. You did not fight like a berserker with no care for your own survival. What are they doing? He whispered. Why are they not afraid? War Master Vexenal had no answer. He was too busy watching his own tactical display, where the red dots representing Valorian ships were disappearing one by one. On the Defiance, the crew was taking damage but refusing to slow down. A plasma bolt had breached the hull on Deck 7. Danny Cole had sent repair teams to seal the breach. Another hit had knocked out one of the secondary weapon systems. Tyler simply switched to a backup and kept firing. People were hurt. Some were dying. But no one stopped fighting. Captain Webb opened a channel to the whole ship. Damage report, all sections. Reports came flooding in. Hull breaches on 3 decks. Fire in the engine room. Medical bay was filling up with wounded. They had lost 47 crew members in the first 10 minutes of battle. Marcus felt each death like a wound in his own heart. These were his people, his responsibility. But he could not stop now. If he stopped, everyone on New Providence would die. 1 million innocent lives were counting on him to keep fighting. All hands, this is the captain. I know we are hurting. I know we have lost friends. But look at the enemy. Look at what we are doing to them. They came here with 200 ships. They thought they were invincible. Now they are running. Now they are dying. Because of us. Because of what we are doing right now. He gripped the arms of his chair and stared at the battle on his screen. We do not stop. We do not slow down. We do not give them a single second to recover. We finish this. For our fallen. For New Providence. For Earth. Let them remember this day forever. Let the whole galaxy know what happens when you threaten humanity. The crew responded with cheers and shouts. The Defiance turned toward the largest cluster of surviving enemy ships and accelerated. Its weapons blazed with fire and death. And across the burning battlefield, the Valorians began to understand something that would haunt them for generations. The humans were not fighting to win. They were fighting because this was who they were. Violence was in their blood. War was in their bones. They had spent thousands of years learning how to destroy each other. And now they were using all that terrible knowledge against a new enemy, the Valorians. Had thought war was mathematics. The humans knew it was something much darker, and that darkness was consuming the Valorian fleet one ship at a time. The battle had lasted 3 hours. 3 hours of fire and death. 3 hours of explosions and screaming metal. When it finally ended, the space around New Providence looked like a graveyard. 167 Valorian ships had been destroyed. Another 23 were crippled beyond repair, drifting through the darkness with their engines dead and their crews praying for rescue. Only 10 vessels had managed to escape, jumping to faster-than-light speed and fleeing back toward Valorian territory. They would carry the story of this day to their homeworld. They would spread the warning about what had happened here. The USS Defiance hung in orbit above New Providence, battered and scarred but unbroken. Its hull was covered with burn marks and impact craters. Entire sections were open to space, sealed off by emergency bulkheads. But its engines still burned. Its weapons still worked. And its crew was still alive. Most of them. Captain Marcus Webb stood on his damaged bridge and listened to the final casualty reports. 212 crew members had died during the battle. 212 names that would be carved into the memorial wall at the Luna Military Station. 212 families that would receive a folded flag and a letter that could never explain how their loved one had died. He felt the weight of each death pressing down on him. He would carry that weight for the rest of his life. But he also knew that their sacrifice had meant something. 1 million people on the planet below were safe because of what his crew had done today. Commander Lisa Morgan approached him with a datapad. Her uniform was torn, and there was blood on her face from a cut she had received when a console exploded near her station. She had refused medical treatment until the battle was over. "Captain, Governor Patricia Mills is requesting to speak with you. She wants to thank us personally." Marcus nodded. "Put her through." The view screen flickered, and the face of an older woman appeared. Governor Mills looked exhausted. Her eyes were red from crying and lack of sleep. But when she saw Marcus, she smiled, and there was such gratitude in that smile that it made his heart ache. "Captain Webb," she said, her voice shaking with emotion, "I do not know how to thank you. We watched the battle from the surface. We saw what you did. We saw your ship charge into 200 enemy vessels without hesitation. We thought we were going to die. We thought no one was coming to save us. And then you appeared, and you fought like nothing we have ever seen." Marcus shook his head slowly. "We just did our job, Governor. Those are human lives down there. We were not going to let anyone take them." Governor Mills wiped tears from her eyes. "Please tell your crew that New Providence will never forget them. We will build a monument to the people who died saving us. Their names will be remembered here forever." "I will tell them," Marcus said. "Thank you, Governor." The transmission ended, and Marcus turned to look at his crew. They were tired and wounded and grieving, but they were also proud. They had done something incredible today. They had proven what humanity was capable of when pushed to the limit. "All hands," he said, his voice carrying through the ship's speakers. "The battle is over. We have won. New Providence is safe. I want you all to know how proud I am to serve alongside you. You are the finest crew in the galaxy. Now get some rest. We have a long journey home." 2 days later, a relief fleet from Earth arrived at New Providence. Admiral Catherine Sullivan was on the lead ship. She had come personally to see the aftermath of the battle and to meet with Captain Webb. When she boarded the Defiance and saw the damage, she was amazed that the ship had survived at all. Holes in the hull, melted weapon systems, corridors blocked by debris. It looked like someone had dragged the vessel through hell and back. She found Marcus in his quarters, staring out a window at the stars. He looked older than she remembered. Older and sadder and harder. "You did well, Marcus," she said quietly. "Better than anyone could have expected." He did not turn around. "We lost 212 people, Admiral. Good people. Young people with families and futures. I have to write letters to all of their loved ones. I do not know what to say." Catherine stepped closer and put a hand on his shoulder. "You tell them the truth. You tell them that their son or daughter or husband or wife died protecting innocent lives. You tell them that their sacrifice saved 1 million people. You tell them that humanity owes them a debt that can never be repaid." Marcus finally turned to face her. "Is it worth it, Admiral? Is any of this worth the cost?" Catherine thought about the question for a long moment. "I do not know, Marcus. I really do not know. But I know that if we had done nothing, those people on New Providence would be dead or enslaved right now. I know that the Valorians would have moved on to the next colony and the next until they reached Earth itself. Sometimes the cost of doing nothing is higher than the cost of fighting." She paused and looked out the window at the stars. "The Valorian Dominion has already sent a diplomatic message to Earth. They want to negotiate a treaty. They have never done that before. They usually just conquer and move on. But after today, they are scared. They thought they understood war, and you showed them that they did not understand anything at all." 1 month later, the peace treaty was signed. The Valorian Dominion agreed to never attack human space again. They returned all prisoners they had taken from other species and promised to change their ways. Not everyone believed them, but it was a start. High Warlord Dexal was among the prisoners brought before Admiral Sullivan. His ship had been captured during the battle when Marcus Webb had led a boarding party to take it by force. The proud warlord, who had never lost a battle, stood in chains, defeated and broken. Sullivan looked at him with cold eyes. "You ask Captain Webb why we fight like we do. I am going to answer that question. Humans spent 10,000 years fighting each other. We invented every form of warfare your species can imagine, and many that you cannot. We burned our own world almost to ashes before we learned to live in peace. When you threatened our people, you woke something up inside us. Something old and terrible. You thought war was about numbers and logic. But war is about will. War is about refusing to give up. And no one in this galaxy has more will than humanity." Dexal looked at her with his cold black eyes. For the first time in his life, he understood what true fear felt like. "What will you do with me?" Sullivan smiled. It was not a kind smile. "We are going to send you home. We want you to tell your people what you saw today. We want you to warn them. Humanity is not looking for war. We just want to live in peace. But if anyone threatens our people again, we will come for them. And we will not stop until the threat is gone." She leaned closer. "Remember this day, Warlord. Remember it forever. And make sure your people remember it too." The story of the Battle of New Providence spread across the galaxy. Other alien species heard about the single human ship that had destroyed a fleet of 200. They heard about the humans who charged into impossible odds without fear. They heard about Captain Marcus Webb and his crew, who had fought like demons to protect their own. And everywhere the story spread, the same lesson was learned. Humanity was not to be threatened. Humanity was not to be attacked. Humanity was something new in the galaxy, something that did not follow the old rules of civilized warfare. Humanity was dangerous, and the galaxy would never forget it.